world of crime is a dark and ruthless place. Drug cartels, arms dealers, human traffickers. These are the criminals we hear about in movies and news headlines. But what if I told you that the biggest illegal trade on Earth isn't drugs, weapons, or even human lives? The biggest illegal trade in the world is counterfeiting, raking in an astonishing $1.1 trillion annually. From fake luxury handbags and designer watches to counterfeit electronics and pharmaceuticals, this industry dwarfs even the global drug trade, which is worth $600 billion. Drugs have been a global menace for centuries. Governments have spent trillions fighting them, yet demand never fades. Wherever there's a market, criminals will find a way to supply it. But what if I told you that the third largest illegal trade in the world isn't something you'd expect? It's not diamonds, oil, or even human trafficking. It's sand. Yes, sand. The stuff you see on beaches, in riverbeds, and in deserts is one of the most sought-after resources on the planet, fueling a $300 billion black market industry. It sounds ridiculous, right? After all, sand is everywhere. It's one of the most abundant materials on Earth. But here's the catch. Not all sand is useful. In fact, the kind of sand we desperately need is running out, and criminal organizations are willing to kill for it. The secret value of sand. Think about the world around you. Look out your window. The roads, the buildings, the glass in your windows, even the screen you're watching this on. They all rely on sand. Sand is as essential to modern civilization as water, oil, and food. It's in concrete, glass, silicon chips, solar panels, microchips, roads, buildings, dams, and even the toothpaste you use every morning. But not just any sand will do. The fine, round grains of desert sand, shaped by thousands of years of wind erosion, are completely useless for most industrial purposes. It's too smooth, too uniform. It doesn't bind together properly. That's why the Sahara Desert, despite containing more sand than anywhere else on Earth, is practically worthless when it comes to construction. The type of sand that modern industry depends on is found in riverbeds, lakes, and coastal regions. This sand is coarse, angular, and varied in size, making it perfect for concrete production, glass manufacturing, and even high-tech industries like semiconductors. Without this specific kind of sand, we cannot build cities. And as the demand for urban development skyrockets, so does the demand for sand. The concrete connection. Why sand is more valuable than ever. The biggest consumer of sand is the construction industry. Every major city in the world depends on concrete, and concrete depends on sand. Here's a shocking fact. Every year, humanity consumes more than 50 billion tons of sand. That's more than any other raw material on Earth, even more than fossil fuels. The numbers are staggering. A single house requires 200 tons of sand. A single highway requires 30,000 tons of sand. The Hoover Dam was built with 5.5 million tons of sand. A city the size of New York, 300 million tons of sand. Every time a new road is built, every time a new building goes up, every time a new city expands, the demand for sand rises. And the demand is growing at an unprecedented rate. Every year, 60 million people move into cities. That means more highways, bridges, apartments, office buildings, shopping malls, and airports. All made from concrete, which relies on sand. By 2060, global sand consumption is expected to double. The world is running out of the kind of sand we need, and wherever demand outpaces supply, crime thrives. The rise of the sand mafia. Because sand is so essential, and because it's so cheap to mine, it has become one of the most highly unregulated industries on the planet. Unlike diamonds or gold, you don't need advanced equipment or heavy machinery to mine sand. All you need is a shovel, a truck, and no conscience. This low barrier to entry has given rise to criminal syndicates, corrupt businessmen, and violent gangs that now control much of the world's sand trade. These groups are known as sand mafias, and they operate with near impunity. They bribe government officials, pay off law enforcement, and kill anyone who stands in their way. In countries like India, China, Vietnam, and Indonesia, illegal sand mining is rampant. Journalists and activists who have tried to expose the trade have been beaten, kidnapped, and even murdered. In India alone, hundreds of people have died in conflicts related to illegal sand mining. Some were shot, others were drowned. Some were burned alive inside their trucks. And it's not just happening in India. In Morocco, nearly half of all sand is illegally mined. In Vietnam, sand miners have destroyed entire deltas, causing severe flooding. In Indonesia, over 24 islands have completely disappeared, mined away by illegal sand operations. This isn't just an environmental crisis, it's a human crisis. The environmental catastrophe caused by sand mining. Sand mining is one of the most destructive industries on the planet. When you remove sand from riverbeds, lakes, and coastlines, you're destabilizing entire ecosystems. Rivers change course. Coastal erosion accelerates. Cities begin to sink. Take the Mekong River, which flows through 6 countries and supports over 60 million people. Every year, 55 million tons of sand are taken from the river. The result? The Mekong Delta is literally sinking. By 2100, half of the delta could be underwater. Or take Lake Poyang in China, the world's largest sand mine. In just 2 decades, so much sand has been removed that entire shorelines have vanished. And it's not just rivers. Coastal cities like Jakarta, Bangkok, and Miami are sinking faster than ever. The future of sand, a looming shore TAG, and the sky are also keying prices. Governments have tried to crack down. Countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Cambodia have outright banned sand exports. But bans don't stop the trade. They just push it further underground. When Indonesia banned sand exports to Singapore, illegal sand smuggling skyrocketed. In Cambodia, only 4% of sand exported to Singapore was legally documented. The rest, it was smuggled. The construction boom in Asia, Africa, and Latin America has driven demand to all-time highs. The price of sand has surged. In some regions, it's now worth more than oil. By 2060, sand prices could double or even triple. At this rate, the world is heading for a global sand shortage. If nothing changes, the black market will only get bigger. The sand mafia will become more powerful. More journalists, activists, and innocent people will be murdered. Entire ecosystems will be wiped out. And we as a civilization may find ourselves unable to build the future we so desperately need. This is the dark truth about sand, something so common, so seemingly harmless, yet at the center of one of the world's biggest criminal industries. So next time you see a skyscraper, a glass window, or a stretch of highway, remember this. The cost of sand isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in lives.